Well, thank you, Nahyan, for helping with my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, my name is Nahyan Farouk, as I'm sure you guys already know. I am the Chief Design Officer and co-founder at Pi Space Science Education Center. Pi Space Science Education Center is a STEM education initiative, and we're using space science as a vector to basically impart STEM education in Pakistan, of course, and of course across the borders. Also, I'm a prospective member, well, soon to be a member, I hope, and I'll get to know in by the end of March, I think. I'm a prospective member currently at the International Institute of Space Law. I am also a member of the Space Generation Advisory Council. And last but not least, I am also an educator at the Victorian Space Science Education Centre, which is in Melbourne, Australia, one of the pioneers of STEM education in the world. So that's just a little bit about me.
Well, can you talk a little bit about how you got inspired to start the Pi Science and Space Center, and kind of
Sure.
you know what are your vision for it, and kind of what you see as being the future of it?
Absolutely. And I think this question that you've asked is very, very critical because for developing countries like Pakistan, at least. So the idea honestly came to us from the Victorian Space Science Education Center. I've been, and as I said before, I am an educator and have been an educator at VSEC, which is in Melbourne, since 2014, if I'm not wrong. And that's where I initially got the idea from. And I came back to Pakistan. I still am in uni. So I was at uni over there and I was working at the same time. So when I came back to Pakistan on one of my holidays, I shared the idea with my partner Zartaj, who has also been on this podcast as well. And I shared the idea with her, and she said, "You know what? Let's go for it." So that was initially where it all came to us, because unfortunately in Pakistan, when anybody talks about STEM education, it's STEM education is just it's monopolized by robotics in Pakistan, and we believe it to be so much more than that. So we started off with space science, and we basically, I think, planted our seed back in 2018. And so far, in just under 3 years, April 2018, so just under 3 years, we've managed to inspire over 10,000 students and empower over 2,000 teachers worldwide. And thanks to the internet, of course, because of these video conferences and things like that, mostly workshops online. And of course, we've also had workshops in Southeast Asia as well. So the vision for basically PSEC that we see is that we would want, number one, hands-on education to be a part and parcel of daily life in schools. So other than teaching from books in schools, we feel that science is a subject that cannot be taught from books alone. And you need to get your hands dirty in order to understand the concepts. So hands-on interactive learning needs to be a part and parcel life in schools, so that we're able to pass along the message, the beautiful message of science that is, with hands-on experiences and hands-on activities. So that's basically the vision for PSEC that we have.
That's an awesome vision, and I totally agree with you that you learn by experiences and actually being a part of the process, not just by absorbing information and regurgitating it on tests. The answer is not always in the back of the book. The really important answers haven't been discovered yet. So how do we create
Absolutely.
kids that can do that? You mentioned about the really beautiful and important message of science. Could you maybe sum that up in a few sentences of what you think that message actually is?
Oh, wow, you're really putting me on the spot here. I don't think people are going to be happy if I give my opinion of it. Honestly, it's in a few sentences. Wow. I would say, honestly, the word, I think just one word, experience, or probably if I take a few more words, um, I would say analysis, experimentation, and most of all, I think this is very important. Science really isn't all about getting to that one answer, because you have scientists who are carrying out experiments on a daily basis. So if you have an answer, always have that 1% of nagging doubt in your head. And I feel that's what makes you a good scientist. And that's what helps you as well to go forward if you choose a STEM career path. But I know that's not one sentence, but that was very difficult. Sorry about that.
No worries. No worries. But I think you're right on. It's almost like the beauty of science is you can actually make observations and learn something about the world. That the
Absolutely.
it, it's believing that your eyes are seeing correctly, maybe.
Absolutely. I completely agreed over there.
Um, well, so tell me about your the Law Institute. Um, you're doing the STEM education, but you're also doing the legal space thing as well.
Right. So the International Institute of Space Law is actually it's an institute that's made up of yeah, Nathan, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
Right, right. For some reason, my Zoom just said that my internet connection is unstable. So, anyways, so basically, the International Institute of Space Law is this institute or this organization who are laying down the foundations of space law, but as it is in the name, and how countries need to align themselves with those particular set of laws if and when we go into space. So as they say, Moon isn't owned by anyone, the planet Mars isn't owned by anyone, even though I am talking to you live from Mars at the moment. All these places aren't owned by anyone, no planet, no star. I mean, you have these people who are selling lands on the moon, who are selling plots on the moon, or selling these places on the moon, which I don't know how they have the rights over it, but they are. But the thing is, they're setting down these laws, they're putting down these laws on pen and paper to basically make aware of what can and cannot happen when we go into space. And I feel that's very, very important. When we're talking about space, we're always very open to the technology being used, the rockets and the satellites and orbiters and things like that. But when it comes down to the moral and ethical aspects of it, it's very difficult to nail down exactly and pinpoint exactly what do we do and how do we go about it. And that's just one of the many things that the International Institute of Space Law is doing. However, being a prospective member at this current point in time, I just have a seat as an outsider. I do get all the newsletters, what's going on. I can give my little tidbits here and there, but being a prospective member, I'm still on the sidelines. But as soon as I become a member, I'm going to be jumping headfirst into it.
Um, and that's interesting. You talk about selling plots of land on the moon and Mars. That comes up. It has come up several times. I've had friends that say that their friends have bought it, and is it a scam? How to prove it's a scam and what have you. And you point to like the Outer Space Treaty, and you're like, no government can make a claim of something off of the Earth, and they're like, well, it's not a government; it's a private entity, and but all property rights really come from having a government that's really willing to defend that property claim from somebody else. And if you have some type of dispute about is that my plot of land on the moon or not, I doubt there's any court in the world that would consider that case.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I've had this conversation once or twice with people, and I'm just left scratching my head. That all right, you bought a plot on the dark side of the moon, perhaps, or I bought a plot next to some, I don't know, just the weirdest things. And I try to argue, but then I'm like, but should I just hold back? I don't know. Eventually, I just give up. I say, all right, fine, you're right. You have a plot on the moon. Good luck with it. So that's about it.
But I think the solution is that plot and that piece of paper they have is probably no more valid than something you or I could have given to them. So we should tell them not to settle for the whole thing. I mean, not for settle for a part of it when we could give them the whole thing.
Absolutely. I think we found our next. I think we found our next initiative now. We can start selling the moon and other planets available in the solar system.
The the test that I try to tell people is try taking that paper and going to the bank and seeing if they'll give you a loan on it. If they'll do that, it's legit.
Yeah,
Well,
fair enough.
yeah, you're right. But um,
Absolutely.
on the other side of it, these are people that probably wouldn't even bother looking through a telescope. Um, but now that they have a piece of paper saying they own a little piece of land on the moon, they want to see it, right? They want to.
Right.
I mean, the far side's a little difficult to accommodate, but something on the Earth facing side, suddenly they're like, okay, where's my plot? Is it next to that crater? Eh, so, it's that's like a positive thing. How can we keep the positive thing without the scam part? That's what I want to know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no. When they're looking through a telescope looking for it, I think we should ask them, "Can you spot it? Can you draw it out for me?" So I highly doubt that they'll be able to do that.
Um, I also noticed that you're doing something new online, kind of spreading the STEM, um, capabilities using curiosity.tech.
Absolutely, yeah. And honestly, we're so excited about it. So for 2 years, the initial idea with PSEC was that we would use space science, as I said earlier as well. We would use space science as a vector to inspire and excite students for STEM education. So in that direction, really. So for the first 2 years, that's exactly what we did. We sat down with students, we did workshops, we were think of it sort of focus grouping really with students on how they would react if we brought space science in front of them. And that's basically what we did. And well, I'm really excited to say that we got a very good response. Students were always very excited about space, but because it is that one mysterious thing, as they say, the final frontier, if I'm not mistaken, that is what it is. So when that came into play, really, what we had hunkered down in the starting of 2020, and we wanted to take everything online. Lo and behold, COVID makes an appearance in March, and when things started to shut down, when it started to become really serious, we just really had to accelerate that process. So in December 2020, we launched Curiosity.tech, which is a completely free, completely online portal where you can get access to hundreds of hours of STEM content all the way from grades 3 all the way till university. And we have various different courses for different sorts of people who are coming in as well. And the good thing about it is they're all hands-on. So if you're, let's say if you're from grade 3 to 4, 3, 4, 5, you can have those scientific space science experiments that you can do. Um, and the beauty of all of those experiments is that there is an observation and analysis coming out of it. Just as a very quick example, I'll give you all the experiments that we do. It's out of recyclable and very cheap materials. So the experiments, because I feel one of the stepping stones for good education is that it needs to be cheap and readily available for everyone. If I tend to start teaching with iPads and very, very expensive things, then I'm not going to try and get my message across that easily because most of the world, well, at least in the developing world, I would say, they don't have access to these sorts of luxuries. So what we did was all the experiments that we designed, they were all made with very, very cheap, very easily available recyclable materials. And so just as an example, one of our experiments is called Landing Atlas. So you have two pieces of cardboard, you have a few popsicle sticks, and then a paper cup on top, and a zigzag sort of a paper in between for suspension of sorts. So they drop it from 2 feet, then the 3 feet height, then a 4 feet height, and they need to see if the astronauts are going out of the lander when it lands. So they've put some marshmallows or rocks or whatever they want inside that paper cup. So when they're dropping it, they're seeing if the astronauts come out, and then they're testing their suspension system. So that's just one of the many experiments that we have. If you're from a little bit older age group, then what you have is you have some virtual robotics. Again, because we wanted it to be completely virtual, they wouldn't necessarily have to go outside and buy any expensive Lego kits or anything of the sort. What we thought then it would be good to have virtual robotics for students as well. Then another one we have is called Streamers Masterclass. Just like that, the idea is that these days, many young students and many young people, they have their role models pegged as YouTubers and TikTokers and Instagrammers, which is fine. And we just wanted to harness that energy into something a bit more positive. And that's basically what we did. We came up with Streamers Masterclass, which is a course about motion graphics and using some freely available editing software. Last and not least, but we're working with one right now, and actually Zartaj is heading that one, my partner. She's currently working with Back to Back, which is an Australian design firm, and we're bringing design thinking to schools and universities. So just to basically have students think from an outside of the box perspective, especially with a few problems. So that's what Curiosity Tech is, completely free. I mean, anyone who's watching can go online right now. They can make an account and get access to hundreds of hours of this online free content, really.
That is really awesome. It sounds like something I'd like to do actually.
Go for it.
Um, so I, did you know that NASA is planning to send people back to the moon in 2024?
Yes, yes, I do.
And how did you find out?
How did I find out about it? I think I was honestly, I was in Australia when I found it. I was with all of my educators back at BSEC, and this conversation just came up out of nowhere. And they're like, we're going back to the moon. I was like, who do you mean we're going back to the moon? No, no, we're going back to the moon. I was like, all right, are we really going back to the moon? And that's how it just snowballed into what it was just crazy. So I think it was in Australia when I found out with all of my educators and friends.
It sounded like there was a lot of excitement with that group. That they sounded like they were enthusiastic. Is that right?
Super enthusiastic. I can't explain in words how happy and how excited we were.
Um, and do you know the last time we had people on the moon?
If I'm not mistaken, the last Apollo mission was somewhere in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
Would you believe 1972?
I think I can, sure. Yeah, I think that I'll take that down. Yeah, sure. Yeah, 1972.
Um, and I'm your students over there at the PSEC. Do they know that we're planning to send people back to the moon?
We've slowly started marketing it. People are slowly getting to know about it. And trust me, the excitement is most definitely building.
Would it shock you that most of the people I talk to that aren't into space don't know we're going to the moon?
I would say you're hanging out in the wrong circles.
Well, it depends on your mission.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Your priorities, your interests, absolutely.
But I'm a space person. I'm surrounded by space people. With this project, I was really hoping to kind of get the view of the person at the coffee shop and at the store, and just the regular everyday person to see what they think.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's true.
so what do you think about us going back to the moon? I mean, what are your thoughts?
First thought that comes to my mind, it would be a little bit pessimistic, I think, but we should have done this earlier. That would be my first thought.
There's that saying about when's the right time to plant a tree, and the
Today and
answer,
50
yeah,
years ago. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I love that. It's very, very good.
That's true with anything. When's the right time to learn STEM? Well, when you were a child, but the next
Right.
best time is let's get started.
Absolutely. No, no, I agree. I agree with that sentiment for sure. For sure.
Um, so there's not everybody that's enthusiastic about going to the moon, right? I mean, you were talking about uh, you know, maybe I'm hanging out the wrong circles and stuff. And there's definitely a group of supporters that are enthusiastic and it makes 100% sense to them. Their long range view of humanity is we're going to space and moon's just the next step. It's like a step
Right.
in that direction. And so in
True.
that context, it makes 100% sense. But for a lot of other people who are worried about feeding their children or global climate change or social injustice or the pandemic, they're like, why are we sending people to the moon? How does that make sense?
Right.
Um, and I guess, just to kind of imagine yourself in front of a group of those people, um, is there anything that you could say that would benefit them that they should consider?
I think pointing out all the inventions that NASA has come up with, pacemakers, baby formula, things like that, that they would probably use in a day-to-day life, because all of these have come out from space missions, right? It's very difficult to see. One of the arguments that I get, honestly, and especially coming from a developing country, I'm just quickly going to change my position, just a sec.
No worries.
All right. So one of the arguments that I get, especially coming from a developing country, is that Why are we spending millions, if not billions of dollars by sending a few people into space? Why can't we end world hunger? Or why can't we provide houses for the poor? And I say, you're right, but you're wrong. Because by doing all of these things, what you're eventually doing is you have some really big problems that come up, and then all these really smart people, these engineers and all these people in NASA and wherever they are, they find some solutions for it. And at the end of the day, those solutions do trickle down to your average human who's all in the streets, in the office, wherever they are. And that's something that I love about it. It's very difficult to change people's views, especially with how polarized things have become these days. But getting through to them eventually. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point. The counter argument though is if you wanted to invent baby formula, why not just focus on inventing baby formula, type of thing.
Right, that's one way to go.
Uh, so there's
Right, right, yeah.
there's that. But I'm a big space advocate. I would love for I'm in my mind the moon is the next step. In fact, it's a step that we should have kept taking and we have stopped. But at the same token, I can be sympathetic to these people that maybe aren't don't see it as a priority, and I think their views are important and should be taken into consideration. But I think it really all comes down to that long range view of humanity. I mean, do you see humanity in the stars or not? And I guess I toss that question to you. Do you?
Yes, for sure. I mean, there is no reason why we shouldn't. I think humans have this characteristic about them, and all humans really, that exploration is in our nature. We've explored, well, almost explored the oceans. Can you hear me, Dan?
I
Can you
can
hear
hear
me,
you.
Nathan?
Yes, I
Yeah,
can hear you.
sorry. Again, my
No
internet is
worries.
just all over the place. So, as I was saying, so humans are, it's in their nature of being, explorers actually. So we've explored the earth, again, most of it rather, the oceans, again, most of it, I would say. Next step would be the stars. Um, let's start off with moon, then we go to Mars, and then we go out to the other planets whichever ones that we have in our neighborhood. And then we should start going towards the other solar systems around us, galaxies, and so on and so forth. But we have to take that step. If not today, then I don't know. I'm not too sure when, but we really do need to take that step.
Yeah, some of the people I've talked to, they're like, they think like their children or children's children will go to the moon and stuff like that. And I just always wondering what's going to change between now and then, that would make that happen. And why couldn't that thing change earlier? Like, why couldn't it change like this year or next year?
Right.
So if you could go to space, would you?
Is that a question? Is that a rhetorical question?
Yeah, you'd be amazed.
Actually, today um, I was reading about this. I think yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I said you'd be amazed that some people that I think would be completely on board to go into space are like, no, no, I don't think so. It's like it's not as an obvious question as you might think.
Right. Yeah. I'm already ready. As you can see, I'm in my spacesuit, all ready to fly off into space. So, you can count me in for that for sure.
Have you heard of Dear Moon?
Have I heard of what? I'm sorry.
Dear Moon?
I don't think I have.
There's this Japanese billionaire who's paid SpaceX to send him and a group of people around the moon in, the Starship in 2023.
Is
And
that the Japanese billionaire?
yes, exactly.
I was reading about him on BBC today. Yes, I have heard of him. Yes.
He just opened up, a sign up thing yesterday. So people who are interested in maybe taking a trip around the moon with them can go ahead and begin the sign up process.
Absolutely. No, I'm actually after this call, I was going to put my name down there as well. So let's see, fingers crossed.
Um, well, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get to?
Just that, honestly, to all your viewers, I would say, just try to one of the things that we focus on, even when we're doing our sessions, is that there is no such thing as a silly question, and there's no such thing as a wrong answer. So that's one of the things that we always say in one of our workshops, and I feel that's something that we should tell to our students as well in schools, because I just feel, unfortunately, with schools and especially the industrial model of education that we follow in our schools, we don't bring out creativity in schools, and that's something that we shouldn't do. So, and that's one of the reasons why we've taken up PSEC as well, because we wanted to bring back that creativity in schools and students, so that tomorrow's engineers, I'm not saying that today's engineers aren't good. We've seen Percy on Mars, so I'm sure they're excellent. But we do need that creativity back. We need dreamers and we need thinkers. We need them back. So no such thing as a silly question and no such thing as a wrong answer.
Well, thank you so much, and I really appreciate your time, and I completely agree with you. We need more problem solvers, more people who feel like they are the solution.
Absolutely. Nathan, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Okay, have a good rest of your day.
Take care, Nathan. Bye bye.
Bye bye.